We've explored the creation, we've explored the destruction, and we've explored the timeline of Death Star 2. But now it's time to go deeper into what could have been. This is part 4 of our Death Star series, and we're diving headfirst into the Legends timeline, where the construction was more secretive, the labor was more brutal, and the destruction might not have happened at all. We'll follow the Death Star 1 from its earliest whispers in Separatist backrooms to its fiery end above Yavin 4. But this time we're bringing something extra. Alternative endings, strange cameos, and some of the weirdest what-ifs the galaxy has ever imagined. This is the Death Star timeline, Legends Edition, and a few things that maybe shouldn't exist, but totally do. So let's get started. The Death Star is first shown as a Separatist design under Poggle the Lesser. Tarkin appropriates Wraith Synar's battle station idea. Lemelisk becomes chief architect. Tarkin creates a secret research station in the Maw and brings in top scientists. The Maw is a highly unstable cluster of black holes near the Kessel Run that we can read about in several Legends novels. The original super laser in Legends doesn't rely on kyber crystals. It uses other energy systems. There were early technical failures. Lemelisk is killed and cloned repeatedly after failed designs. Can you imagine what Rogue One would have been like if the Empire would have cloned Galen Erso? It's an interesting question to think about. The Tarkin Doctrine justifies the Death Star development as fear-based control. The Tarkin Doctrine was the Empire's policy of maintaining control through fear of overwhelming force rather than loyalty. Wookiees are enslaved and used for Death Star construction. Yes, in Legends, Chewbacca was a slave who was working on the Death Star. You can read about that in the Han Solo trilogy. There were massive secrecy operations. The Empire relocates construction and spreads misinformation, a common practice for the Empire in Legends and canon. Construction moves to orbit above the prison planets Despair. Rogue scientists leak information which helped the rebels. Grand Moff Tarkin took full command of the Death Star. The first full-power test was on Despair, and it was obliterated in that test. If you're enjoying this timeline, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, it really helps me out. We've got even more epic timelines coming next week, including a brand new series diving into the comic book history of Superman himself. Whether you're into exploding space stations or caped icons from Krypton, there's more where this came from. Now, back to the Legends. Death Star plans were stolen at Taprawa, and then Rebel agents, including Bria Theron, transmit the plans to Leia. This is where Legends and canon meet, and A New Hope takes us to the destruction of the Death Star. So from here, let's talk about fun alternatives that happen in games or other non-canon content. We know that Leia is captured and Tarkin blows up Alderaan to send a message. But in the LEGO Star Wars games, you can throw a thermal detonator at the Death Star's control panel and destroy Alderaan yourself. So technically, Alderaan's death was your fault. We know that Han and Luke disguise themselves as stormtroopers and rescue Leia. But in the Star Wars Infinities comic, which was an alternate history, Luke dies rescuing Leia, and she becomes the Jedi who faces Vader. We know that the Empire lets the Falcon escape with a tracker. But in the Star Wars Rebellion game from 2006, players can assign spies to the Death Star who can uncover the tracker if you play your cards right. We know that the Death Star follows a Falcon to Yavin, but in The Force Unleashed, Starkiller, Vader's secret apprentice, kills several rebel leaders, including ones on Yavin 4, before A New Hope even happens. We know that the initial attacks by Red and Gold Squadrons don't succeed, but in Rogue Squadron 3, Rebel Strike, you play through the trench run yourself, and can fail miserably if your piloting skills aren't very good. We know that Tarkin refuses to leave the Death Star, overconfident in its power. In Star Wars Empire at War, my favorite Star Wars game, if you blow up the Death Star with a capital ship before the rebels do, Tarkin dies before the trench run even begins. We know that both Biggs and Porkins are killed during the attack. But in the X-Wing Miniatures game, players can roll to save Biggs or rewrite canon and make Porkins a hero. We know that Luke and Wedge dive into the trench together. But in the Star Wars A New Hope radio drama, Wedge is given even more lines and nearly takes the final shot before peeling off. We know that Han comes back at the last second, blasting Vader's wingman. But in Star Wars Infinities, Han doesn't come back in time and Vader kills Luke. Leia then becomes the Jedi hero. We know that Luke turns off his targeting computer and uses the Force to fire the torpedoes. But in Star Wars Tales number 19, a humorous comic shows Jar Jar Binks as the Force ghost who guides Luke instead of Obi-Wan. Because if there is one thing that we need, it's more Jar Jar Binks in the Star Wars universe. We know that Luke uses the Force, nails the shots, and the Death Star explodes. But in LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, if you're playing co-op and your partner accidentally shoots you mid-trench run, the torpedoes miss, the Death Star survives, and the galaxy remains under Imperial rule. From secret think tanks hidden in black holes to Wookiee slave labor and rogue rebel pilots who were definitely not qualified, the Death Star in Legends was more than just a weapon. It was the ultimate symbol of fear, power, and deeply questionable Imperial engineering. And that brings us to the end. Not just of the Death Star, but of our 4-part journey through its dark history, explosive destruction, and even its strangest side stories. If you've been here since part 1, thank you for sticking with this series. And if this was your first episode, go back and see how it all began. Next week, we're leaving behind the galaxy far, far away and heading straight for Metropolis. We're kicking off a brand new timeline series, this time diving into the history of Superman in the comics. How did the Man of Steel evolve across eras? What changed? What stayed timeless? Hit that subscribe button and we'll see you next week as we leap tall buildings, one panel at a time. Thanks for watching.